Welcome to episode 6 of Win the Day, and today's episode is titled The Gold Standard. The quote for today comes from Ray Kroc, who was the businessman who bought a small restaurant operation from the McDonald's family and turned it into the global powerhouse McDonald's that is still crushing it around the world today. And Ray Kroc said, "The quality of a leader is reflected in the standards they set for themselves." The quality of a leader is reflected in the standards they set for themselves. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the characteristics that make a great leader, and we're going to talk about the ways that you can turn simple daily standards into long-term success. Before we get into all the good stuff in this episode, I quickly wanted to give a very big shout out to all those who attended the kickoff event for the Think and Grow Rich the Legacy World Tour in Los Angeles, California last week. It was an amazing event, and my wife actually had a baby at lunchtime on Wednesday, so I had to leave the hospital and go and speak on the Friday afternoon. But it was an awesome experience, a great energy crowd. So no matter how tired I was, it was really good to have a great time up there on stage. So if you're in Sacramento, San Diego, Houston, Atlanta, New York, I will be coming to speak in your city as part of the Think and Grow Rich World Tour very soon. So just go to tgrworldtour.com, tgrworldtour.com, and use promo code WINTHEDAY, and that will give you $200 off on any ticket at any location that you choose. So go and check it out. I hope to see you there. And let's get into today's episode. And the last 2 weeks have been interesting because I have become a father for the first time. So while it still feels like a completely surreal experience, it really got me thinking about what type of world my daughter is going to be living in and what kind of father I want to be, because kids, they just observe everything around them, and as parents, as carers, as leaders, they're going to be looking up to us the most to set the example of what type of people they should be in the world. So it was Wednesday, the 1st of May at 11:42 a.m. that little Sophie Geraldine Whittaker came into the world weighing 8 pounds, 9 ounces. So it was a really amazing experience, not just the respect that I enormously have now for women through the whole pregnancy and delivery process that they go through, but also needing to be there for the child from the moment that they are born. They're far more important than dads are from the start. But also just the process of bringing life into the world. I thought it would be a lot more emotional, but I just have enormous respect and happiness just for that entire process. So it was a really cool experience, and I'm really looking forward to fatherhood. So thinking about what type of daughter and what type of child I would like to raise, and I'm sure every single parent has this exact same thought process. You want to raise someone who has love, respect, compassion, and willpower, someone comfortable in their own skin who inspires others through their own actions, a leader never afraid to take the reins and do what is right. One of the tenets of success is that every great leader was once a great follower. And in fact, most great leaders, because they recognize that it's important to increasingly become a person of value and always be learning, they are still great followers. In fact, they became great leaders by consistently modeling the habits of high performers in their own way. And none of those habits is more important than consistent self-discipline, because that is what has elevated ordinary people to the elite of every single profession, from athletes and entrepreneurs to soldiers and entertainers. These high performers, these 1%ers, they set high standards for the team and the people around them, but they reserve the highest of standards for themselves. So those highest standards are clearly evident in their commitment to winning the day every day, the actions that they take constantly. If you've read Think and Grow Rich the Legacy, or if you've seen the movie Think and Grow Rich the Legacy, you might recall the incredibly inspirational story of Derek Mills. Derek Mills was a financial advisor in Birmingham in the UK. And he realized he was falling short as a husband. He was falling short as a father. He was falling short as a financial advisor for his business. Everything was out of whack, and the harder he tried, the worse it got for all areas of his life. One day, out of a moment of immense frustration, Derek slammed the filing cabinet drawer and he said to himself out loud, "I am not going to live like this anymore." That was the catalyst for Derek to create these daily standards. He sit down there and he wrote out in full color, he wrote out what type of father he wanted to be, what type of financial advisor he wanted to be, what type of husband, what type of son he wanted to be. And he started living by those daily standards. And incredibly, this small shift in accountability and action had had a dramatic impact on his life. It increased his income tenfold while still working in the exact same office that he had before, and allowed him to spend more time with his young family. He wrote out these daily standards and he handed it to his wife and he said, "You have a new husband." He handed them to his children and he said, "You have a new father." And he handed it to his boss and said, "You have a new financial advisor." That is the power of daily standards. And a lot of you out there watching this on YouTube or listening on the podcast right now might be thinking, well, I'm not a leader, but we're all leaders in some capacity. It's just a product of influence and action. Being a father has made me more aware than ever of how my actions, both good and bad, affect those around me. Because after all, not every leader is a positive one. Even if we're leading someone astray, it's still leadership. Leo Tolstoy once said, "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself." It's easy to dictate how we think others should act, especially if we're in a position of power, as parents are with their children, or as bosses are to their employees, as coaches are to their players. But actually living it ourselves, whether it's family, friendship, or business, that is the most important way that you can inspire change. And thinking about the leaders who you most look up to right now, I bet they are the ones who lead by example. They lead by their own actions. That is the best way to inspire change. And recently I actually had one of my coaching clients, they vented to me that had this boss who was horrible. The boss was constantly late to meetings. He'd smoked those vape cigarettes in all of the boardrooms, and he built this enormously lavish, this huge office space for himself while penny pinching for his workstations and resources for his staff. And what a horrible standard that is to set for your culture. And unsurprisingly, it had a huge turnover of not just staff, but also clients of the business as well. So a miserable culture for everyone to be around. My advice to her was to start looking for a new job immediately while still working on herself and increasingly becoming a person of value outside of hours. Jim Rohn, you might recall the quote where he said, "Work harder on yourself than you do on your job." So just because you are working in an environment that has a bad culture, that doesn't mean you are powerless to change. You still have an enormous amount of power that you can wield to get out there and start creating those right circumstances for you. So within a few short months, she had a new job that paid her 40% more money. She was at a company with strong leadership and a clear vision that had enormously high standards for every single person on the team, but the highest of standards were most demonstrable by their management team. In June last year, I was in Sydney where I appeared as a guest on the new show for Kerwin Rae. A lot of you might have heard of the entrepreneur Kerwin Rae. He's a really great guy. Check him out if you don't know him already. So Kerwin was launching a new show, Unstoppable. So he invited me into his office for my interview. Just walking around the office, I could tell straight away that this place had an amazing culture. From the moment you walked in the door, you could see this huge mural on the wall that had this huge cityscape. It wrote down the company's vision, everything they were going to achieve, when they were going to achieve it, and it was visible to every single person when they walked in and out of the office. He had a custom-made functional fitness facility built in the office that ran free training sessions for each of their staff throughout the week. But Kerwin reserved the highest of standards for himself. He still leads the culture by his own example. So think about that in the context of the person before who was constantly late to meetings, who was smoking those e-cigarettes in meeting rooms and was penny pinching for his staff while building out this enormously lavish office for himself. I'm sure if you were betting on which of those companies would be a huge success over time, you would pick Kerwin's any day of the week. So right now, think about the most chaotic parts of your life right now. What are they? Are you hanging around negative people? Are you accepting clients, if you're a professional or entrepreneur, are you accepting clients who are never happy no matter what you do? Are you letting your health and fitness fall by the wayside? Are you spending less time with your family? Are you watching too much television or spending your days procrastinating on your phone? Or anything else, whatever it is that's causing chaos in your life, one of the best things, and actually one of the easiest ways you can get back on track, is to set these daily standards. If you've completed the success plan, which hopefully if you're watching or listening to this by now, you would have done so. If you haven't got a copy of that success plan template, just email me at info@jameswhitt.com or click the link in my bio on Instagram and you can download a free copy of that success plan template. But when you have completed that and you're thinking about what type of daily standards you want to set for yourself, you will be very, very clear on what you need to do today that is going to achieve success in the long term. And from there, you just need to write out your daily standards or your weekly standards, whatever you like, as vividly and with as much color as possible. Print them out and leave there somewhere where you are going to see them frequently. Follow Derek Mills's lead and hand them to your spouse, hand them to your boss, hand them to your staff, hand them to your children, and let them know that there is a new sheriff in town, a new person right now who is empowered and ready to take ownership of their life and ready to lead by example. Because the final step in that whole process is to live by those standards every day. Talk alone is meaningless. Action is what counts. Purposeful action, day in, day out. Because you have an obligation to all those people in your life, your children, your parents, your siblings, your teammates, your colleagues, your friends, to lead by example. Don't wait until you're in a position of authority to become a great leader. Inspire change through your actions and be proud to live to the highest of standards each day, regardless of the noise and negativity of those around you. That example will be a perpetual gift to all those around you. It will be a source of inspiration to the most important people in your life, leading to unprecedented happiness, freedom, and success. As Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no time arguing about what a good person should be one." Whether it's the battlefield or the boardroom, the best leaders demand excellence from those around them, but reserve the highest of standards for themselves. After all, how you do anything is how you do everything. That's the gold standard. So that's it for episode 6. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you're watching on YouTube, it'd be great if you could hit the like button. And if you're listening to the podcast, remember you can hit subscribe and access episodes as soon as they are released. I hope you've enjoyed listening. Until next time, onwards and upwards always.